Well, then we can go ahead and call the meeting to order. Anybody like to open us up with invocation?
Sure, I'll be glad to. Father in heaven, thank you for this day. Thank you for the beauty of this day. Thank you for the resources and the uniqueness of our surroundings. Lead us and guide us, dear Lord, tonight and each night to preserve and enhance the beauty that you provide for us this day and each day. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Stand for a pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we've already got a change. Well, let's see the minutes. Have we got a copy of those? They're in the packet. Okay. I see.
I have a question about what I said. Every problem has already been addressed. I don't know what that context was.
It was in the open forum when you started talking about the Glenville Lake and how they have a group that is monitoring.
Right. I guess it just is very unclear what that refers to, but I guess
Okay. How would you like?
I don't know because I don't remember the context that was said.
You were explaining to us about the Lake Glenville, what they were doing about monitoring and testing and the results. And I think what you were saying is that they kind of had a good framework,
Right.
you know, something for us to kind of reach out and look at, that they had addressed a lot of the issues there.
And Ms. Clark, if I may, these minutes are typically paraphrasing.
Yeah.
The meetings are recorded, so the word for word statements are generated via the meeting.
Okay.
It's
just odd the way it's taken out of context, and you know, I know what my context was. I don't. It's kind of misleading because every problem has never been addressed anywhere. You know what I mean?
Sure, we didn't generate a minute.
Right, yes.
Word for word is available.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to change this?
I do.
Okay,
Maybe if we could just get rid of the quote. And Mary Kay Clark said she looked online and found Friends of Lake Glenville at Duke Reservoir Lake. Their mission is much like ours.
okay. Is everybody else okay with that?
That's fine.
It's just kind of,
I understand what you're saying when we're dealing with what we're dealing with. I understand what you're saying. I don't have an issue with striking that. Everybody okay with the rest of the minutes?
Well, I actually have a question under action items B. It says in parentheses, we lack what?
Huh?
And unless you change your name, you've got a G in the end of your name unless you changed it. We'll change your name if you decided to change it.
Milving.
Mm-mm. No, sir, I did not change it.
Look on the record, is it posted, the recording? Okay, check recording for that.
And I didn't even catch, because I was looking at my initials, I didn't even catch. So where is my name wrong?
You're gonna sign it.
Oh, when I
Last
sign it.
page.
Oh, okay.
Last
I
page.
see it now. Yeah, typo.
Right here too, under approval of minutes.
Okay. You see what they're talking about there?
Yeah.
So there's 2 points. Yeah. See?
Yes, ma'am. I do. Thank you.
The magazine needs to grab others in minutes too.
Correct. Her spell check's good as mine. Anything else?
I move that we accept the minutes from as
Per changes?
check for changes.
Do we have a
For
second?
September
Second.
25th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Billy.
Also, he's unmuted. That's nice. Okay, so item number 2 on the agenda. So we already have a change to item number 2. So from what I'm understanding here tonight, as we're getting started, so we all understand that Mr. John Boyette has resigned from the board. He's just not able to, he lives in Wilson, so he's not able to be here and feel like he can be a part, of the board.
He hasn't sent the letter of resignation.
It's verbal.
Texted me last night.
And he's not been at a meeting since we've started. So we need to, who needs to do the letter? We need to present a letter to the town commission stating that he's removing himself. Is that what I'm understanding?
That we're gonna go back and look, because we're not sure if, I think the town board can remove it.
I think so, and that's what Commissioner Hall and I were talking before the meeting, and just in full transparency, I'm thinking about several different advisory board bylaws that we have at the lake, so I want to make sure that I'm 100% certain on it, but I think you're correct on the procedure. The Board of Commissioners would review a letter of resignation in their agenda packet, and then ultimately vote to adopt that letter of resignation. And I think given the extraordinary circumstances, in other words, he hasn't been to a meeting and this is a relatively new board, I think you would have the authority if you chose to do that, Mr. Chairman. in terms of issue a letter.
Okay.
If you have verbal commitment from them, you certainly point that out in your letter.
Okay. So who would draft it? Billy?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Secretary?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, so you and I'll discuss that, Billy, and then we'll get that to Tina. So she can get it on the November agenda for the town commissioners.
November meeting is.
Okay. Just stating that John has resigned, blah, blah.
Right. In other words, he was not able to show up to any of our meetings since we formed. And he just has too many commitments to be a part of the board. So we're gonna ask that they would remove him from the board.
Yes, sir.
And then we had talked about Miss Tonya Jarrett, which was already a what's the proper word? Right, she had already applied, but was not part of the original 7.
Right.
Okay, she wants to keep that position with her application and approval there, but has asked that we would I have in front of me application from Paul Harris, which is a permanent resident of the lake. And we would turn his application into the town commissioners, if we all are okay with that, to let him take John Boyette's position. So we have Mr. Harris here with us tonight. If for anybody that doesn't know.
So she would remain as another backup, am I understanding?
As an alternate, yes. Miss Jarrett would remain an alternate.
Okay.
And then we would have Mr. Harris take Mr. Boyette's position.
Understood.
So that being said, not to put Mr. Harris on the spot, but does anybody have any questions for him, or just everybody okay with?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
To Billy.
And it's big. Okay. Make sure it's. All right.
Hey, everybody, Paul Harris, it's nice to be here. I know Kurt and Todd very well. DJ, we met.
Yeah.
Fixing my air conditioner.
Yeah.
Which wasn't good. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. I work for a global company called Thermo Fisher Scientific. It's probably the biggest company in the world you've never heard of. I've worked for them for almost 20 years. I've done quality manager, project management. I do lots of stuff. I deal with people from around the globe. I work from home. I've worked from home for 15 years, probably. But anyway, I appreciate the opportunity. And where I live, I've been here about 5 years. I moved down. If you know where Dwight and Tammy Blizzard built a house when you go out 53 near Nathan's Cove, there at Tall Pines, there's a house across the street. So I live in the blue house that's up on Pylons. But anyway, my wife and I have been together since the 1900s. My kids live next door. And we have one grandchild, so we have our family here. But I look forward to doing that, whatever I can do to help, if you pick me. Any questions?
Yeah, anybody have any questions for Mr. Harris? Okay. A data guy?
There you go. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So, do we have a motion to give his application to the town commissioners? Kurt?
Yes.
Okay, Kurt's making the motion. She has to write down the names. Yes. Second,
Second.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. So what we'll do is turn your application into the town commissioners, and then they have to approve. We approve, but they have to approve. We're just an advisory. We're not a, let's see, so we're,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that
Yes, sir.
deadline for the Board of Commissioners packet would be November 12th.
November 12th, okay. Did you get that, Billy? So we'll need to get that, a week prior to that. We'll need to get the letter for John to Tina.
That is the date. Our meeting is the November 18th.
Okay, so that'd be the cutoff.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, the date, what's the deadline, November 12th?
yes, sir.
Okay.
That way she can get it in their packet, in their agenda packet.
Okay.
Okay, so we've already talked about 3. We've already discussed item number 3.
Yes.
Okay, so item number 4. Did everybody get a chance to look at the article that, is it Laurtisen? Is that her name? How you pronounce her, Miss Diane's name?
Is that misspelled? Is it,
I think it is.
yeah,
I think it's
Lawrence.
It's Lauritsen.
It's spelled how?
I think the I and T.
Oh, Laurtisen, okay.
reverse Lawrence. Yeah.
I read through it, but I'm still learning some of the technical things.
Yes, I read through it too, and it's one of those things you're gonna have to read several times.
Yeah, and get understand some of the
Right.
definitions of things. My background's more in air quality and electrical and things like that than the water. I know how to push and pump water. I know that very well.
But I think that's something that we all need to be familiar with, and if you haven't read it, I suggest you do. It's a compilation of all of our work to date. And that's what, 7 years?
I don't know how to address this. I read and there's a term for the overview of what it is, so I will admit, I've read the abstract. I've not read the whole thing. But in the abstract, if I'm not mistaken, she talks about the reason we sprayed the lake was because of hydrilla. I started to go back and try to find the data on that, but I wasn't at those meetings. Hydrilla was not a problem. It was cyanobacteria. And there's hydrilla in Lake Waccamaw. It's very obvious. It's very evident. It's pervasive. It's a problem. But we were at the point where signs were going to have to be put up, swim at your own risk. If this had been an open lake that the state would have closed it, they would have closed it. That was the kind of discussions we had. So I don't want to be the negative voice on here, but if you see handout I gave you, I've been trying to get something done since 2016, and a lot of it's misinformation. And that's one of them. And we sit here and read that and we say, okay, that is the way the lake is. That's the way it was done and such. I'm not a negative person, but there are things in there that are wrong.
Well, and I think the reason to read it and be familiar with it is so that at some point we can advise, but create a list of questions. Like it was a surprise to me that the lake was covered 80% with hydrilla. And, you know, like I said, I've only read through it one time. I have a science background. I read a lot of professional papers that have been peer reviewed. And I know what it takes to write a peer reviewed paper, and get it published. And she has done that. And so that is going to be the basis for what people rely on in the future for what happens at White Lake and what has happened and what has been monitored and found. And if we have problems with that or questions about it, we need to somehow put those in the record, because it's a big deal to have something out there like that in a peer-reviewed journal. So at some point, we need to dedicate an entire meeting to that particular paper.
Well, let me ask, when we talk about peer review, and again, I've never written anything peer reviewed. And no, I did not read the whole article, because once I got to that point, I knew I had issues with it. How do we examine peer review? Is it in that? When somebody says it's peer review, that sounds like it's really passed muster and it's really correct. The reason I say that is, again, I don't want to be a negative person, but I've cross-examined experts for many, many years. And a lot of times experts don't have their opinion based upon anything. And if it's not challenged or find out where that information comes from, then the information is not anything that people should rely on. So when we're talking about, we need to have a meeting that we just examine that paper. I started to go back into some of the information I have, but also understand that there are archives all over the place that show what the lake was like. I didn't spend all the time going back through, but if we're going to spend that much time going through one report.
It's not a report. It's a professional article in a peer-reviewed professional journal. And that's higher in the hierarchy than an article. So what peer review means is experts in the field have been sent the paper that she wrote prior to it being published, and they have gone through it and reviewed it and made criticisms or suggested changes or whatever. And the editorial board for that peer-reviewed journal has looked at those criticisms and reviews and comments from the experts. And they have generally sent it back to the author and said, address these points and resubmit your paper. And whenever it passes all of the criteria, and that means the changes and suggestions that people have made, it goes back to the editorial board and they decide to publish it or not. So it's a very rigorous process to have your paper peer reviewed. But the peer review is only as good as the reviewers, you know, and the reviewers are looking at other situations because they haven't looked at White Lake. So they don't know the circumstances of White Lake. And, you know, that they don't have to approve the science behind it, which is part of what they're doing. You're in this science field too, so you tell me if I'm doing an adequate job of explaining it. But, you know, it's not just a little thing to have a paper in a scientific journal. It's a big deal, and because it is out there and it's a big deal, if you have problems with it and questions about it, going back to what you know and so knows and so on, doesn't really matter. It's gotta be, this paper has to be addressed directly, and anything in it that isn't understood or that you feel is not accurate really needs to be in black and white out there for other people to say, okay, this has been challenged. Can you tell us how this information came about, or if this challenge is legitimate or not? You know, I mean, it has to be, this is going to be cited in the future. Every time White Lake is mentioned, and every time water quality and quantity and monitoring here, every time any of that comes up, this paper will be cited as the basis and foundation for what happened in the last 7 years. So it's not I mean, it's just the way it is. It's out there. It's just like this paper fray or fry that you cited here. That will be copied and stapled to reports and other things that are going out to people. So I do recommend that we spend a meeting on this particular paper.
Well, then let me ask how to proceed. And the basis, because I've not been through peer review. They're reviewing the way it's presented as such. They're not standing behind any scientific assumption or evaluation that she has made, correct?
Who's not?
The peer committee.
Oh,
So the peer committee is not sitting there going, Diane said that the reason it was sprayed is because of hydrilla. They're not looking behind that and saying, okay, let's get the science that was there back in May of 2018 and let's find out, was there hydrilla, was there 80%? They're not checking that, is that right?
well, I'm not sure what they did. It's not a peer review committee. It's an individual who has expertise in this particular field. And usually it's a minimum of 2 and probably 3 reviewers that look at a paper. And they would be individuals that are considered the experts in this, whatever the paper's about. They don't go do research on their own. They look at her findings, and they look at her citations. You know, the end of the paper will have a list of papers that she referred to, and it does. And you know, they will make sure that the list is complete, that if they know a source or a citation that she should have looked at, they will add that in or ask her why she didn't refer to it. You know, that's the kind of things that happen in review. So your question about, I'm not quite sure what you're getting at when you're asking me about the peer reviewer going back and finding out about hydrilla and like, I'm not quite following what you're trying to get at there.
I don't know how to approach this, is what I'm getting at. If she's going to be quoted, then 2 things pop in my mind. Number one, are we going to be saddled with this forever? Or let's just suppose that, hang on a second. Let's just suppose that somehow or another we decide that, hey, there is somebody in this world that's more qualified than she, and we would like that person to do it. And are we going to be saddled with, they can't go on their own and do their own investigation or analysis and come up with their own conclusion because this is here, so we need to spend a whole lot of time on this? Or if that's the case, then do we need to go down every single thing in this report? So that if somebody says, yes, but Diane in her report said so-and-so and so-and-so, and we must take that as 100% truth, we have to spend our time debunking 14 different things in this report?
Well, a scientific finding in a report isn't unchallengeable. It can always be challenged. So, but yes, we are saddled with this report forever and ever. Now, are we, it sounds like what you're talking about is, do we continue to work with this particular researcher? And that's not the question I'm posing to people right here. I'm posing an idea that what I'm saying is that we have to look at this report, and if we don't think there's accurate information in there, we have to talk about that. Pretending this report doesn't exist or hoping it doesn't solve any problem for us. And you know, this work has been paid for and has taken a lot of time and effort, energy from a lot of people in this area. And we have to address it. It's just, I don't see any way around it. I mean, I don't know what other people feel about it, but there's no ignoring it. It's out there in the world, in the professional world of lake management. And
if I'm understanding you correctly, so if we were to get a different scientist to look, the first thing they're gonna do is look at this and
Yes.
study this,
right,
not knowing that we have other findings, right? I think that's what we're saying.
Okay.
And I think what Mr. Pittman's saying is, if that be the case, is that scientist, you know, gonna say, oh, well, this has already been done, and I'm not able to say this is.
no, I don't think that's what this report's about. That's,
You're just saying this is a baseline. This
This
is
is
the
the-
first original study, and right, and this was her interpretation of
yes,
the results
right.
of what she saw.
Mhm. I mean,
But you're saying that what we have is known facts, that it differs some from what she's put in her report. Is that that's what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm trying to figure out. How monumental is this? How much are we saddled with this? Or if we had somebody else that came in and said, oh, well, I need to do a ground study. Well, no, I don't need to do a ground study because this report said so and so and so. Are they precluded from anything, or can they make their own independent study? And if they cannot, that's what I'm asking. If they cannot, if what I'm trying to understand, then we need to spend a ton of time on this report, going down point after point after point after point. And there's a lot of theory in this. It's going to be absolutely correct, but it may not have the proper basis for following that theory, either the facts or any other things that have not been considered. And that's what I was trying to do. Do we spend a whole lot of time on this report and go back and dig up all kinds of information? Or do we just kind of say, okay, there are people that, or there's information that challenges this, and now let's move on to something else and see what we can do to help the lake?
I'm not suggesting that we research her report. I'm suggesting that we read her report and identify points or areas in the report that are of concern, or that we believe are inaccurate, or that we believe are accurate. So you and I might be saying the same thing.
I think you're similar. I think you are.
I'm not sure, but
You are. I mean, he's saying that it's just, yeah, what or no.
But my proposal is that we spend one meeting on this report
to get a good understanding, like what I was saying before is, I
Yes,
read it, but I need to understand definitions and exactly what it means.
yes,
Okay. So that we understand the baseline.
Okay.
So that we know how to move forward on other researchers or, you know, well, especially like with the DEQ, you know, things that we can, since they govern, or I guess that's who's testing us now. Is that what I'm understanding? Is the DEQ? Is that who's kind of monitoring what test is happening now, or?
I think according to Jim Perry's presentation that was in one of your packets earlier,
Mm-hmm.
that is, we have Parks and Rec, we have Wildlife, we have DEQ, and I think it's listed as one of their responsibilities.
Okay, and we're still waiting for our answers that we sent to Lane,
Yeah, I read it
Superintendent.
today.
And that with the holidays, we don't know when we'll receive those. Okay, so before we get too deep in I guess another pathway, which what Miss Mary's saying is that we need to get us a good baseline understanding. Right?
it's the.
Yeah, I understand
believe we
what you
could.
said. Mr. Allen, you feel better now about,
Yeah, man.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. Kirk, did you have anything you want to, okay. So that being said, we're talking, you know, item number 5, we're talking about generating questions for the DEQ, but before we do that, do we need to have a better understanding? So that we know the best questions to ask.
Well, I think we could come up with some things for DEQ without having to know about what's in Diane's report, because, or Dr. Lawrence's report. I wonder where there's overlap with, is there overlap with DEQ and the monitoring that's being done?
And Singletary, the state things.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm, yeah. That's what I'm wondering, and until we get those answers, none of us know. You know, because I think we kept them simple, but those are some big questions we asked, right?
yes.
About the
we did.
monitoring, about the overflow, about the bulkhead seawalls, all those questions.
Does anybody have, I didn't bring my copy of the report from Jim Perry as the
I didn't bring mine, man.
let's see, it's quite.
That's a sort of
So DEQ has broad responsibilities in the state. But I don't know what their specific responsibilities are with this lay.
If I remember what I read in there, in that report that we were given, a lot of what they were putting on was, it seemed to me like it was Singletary, the state. Do you remember any of that, Sean? Do you?
I think I can summarize the
Okay.
delineation of authority in terms of specific requests. I think that gets tough. There certainly are some listed in the report, and I think that's a great place to reference. It gets tough because it's not a two-way street in terms of sharing information. Now, certainly the relationship with DEQ, at least, you know, speaking of the past 5 years, I think it's improved tremendously. And we do share information, but we don't always share information. So having said that, I think the delineation of authority can be defined as the surface of the water falls under the purview of state parks. Beneath the surface of the water falls under the purview of DEQ, and the animal life, for lack of a better term, the non-human life falls under the purview of wildlife. So there's three buckets there that are pretty clearly defined. But in terms of specific requirements, responsibilities, and things that happen annually or biannually, I think the report's a good place to go back and look at that.
Yeah.
At least it'll start the form of the question you're interested in posing.
What DEQ is responsible for under the Division of Water Resources under DEQ is water quantity and quality monitoring, planning, and permitting. So the overlap with what the town is paying for with the scientist in monitoring, I don't know what, does DEQ still do some monitoring?
They do. I believe, I don't want you to quote me on this in terms of the year, but I believe the last time it was done was 2021, and the results were made available in 2023. And I think that was analysis of our watershed region, more so than specific analysis of Land Lake.
Yeah, they're also responsible for monitoring groundwater. And for monitoring droughts. Let's see, it says DEQ issues. They have no authority or ability to directly address algae aquatic vegetation and have limited resources to address invasive aquatic vegetation. They take samples and test, but must turn enforcement over to the BCHD. What's BCH? Bladen County Health Department.
Correct.
Okay. As regards the Turtle Cove outlet, the department agrees that the outlet should be maintained as an asset owned by the state or town. This includes the outfall ditch. And they recommend an engineer control structure should be added to assist in controlling the flood.
And that was some of the questions that we asked,
Right.
sent to superintendent to try to get clarity on how to move forward with that.
They also say in here that the seepage of untreated wastewater is a concern that should be addressed. And monitoring stormwater and other outfalls into the lake without a true public access point, it is difficult to inspect the outfalls. So that's what was in the report from Jim Perry about DEQ regarding White Lake.
Did we were talking about, Terry, didn't you mention that, is it the planning board? Are they working on some of the wastewater stuff?
I'll step up to the mic,
Okay.
that way Billy can hear me just a little bit better. So in reference to some of those bullet points, they are absolutely recommendations of DEQ and quite frankly, topics that are discussed whenever I or a member of the town meets with them. Generally, we give an update. That's kind of how we start our meetings. I will tell you that since those recommendations were published, the state of North Carolina has been made aware of. Unfortunately, they were not aware at the time that the town had already completed 2 phases of sewer sanitary improvement projects, which cumulatively, generally speaking, reduced about 25% of the I&I that we have recorded, at least in the past decade. Now, some of that, of course, it should be stated, is fluctuating year to year based on rainfall. And then, of course, subsequently, the groundwater flow. That does contribute greatly to I&I. But it also should be stated that our sewer sanitary system is not pressurized. So I&I, inflow and infiltration, is water coming in, not water going out. Wastewater coming in, not wastewater going out. On the stormwater, the planning board has been conducting a review of our proposal, of our proposed stormwater ordinance. That's in a draft stage. That presentation actually was just given to the Board of Commissioners at their previous meeting. I would recommend to everybody on this board and anybody that may be listening to the recording to go and watch that. That meeting recording is available online, and it was our October Board of Commissioners meeting. The engineer was here and did give a presentation. And certainly, if you have questions, I would welcome those questions at your convenience to me or my staff. We're happy to answer those, but just to give a brief update on those two, specifically those two recommendations from DEQ. And to follow up on the wastewater side of the equation, we do have a phase 3 that has been engineered. It's ready to go. It's a shovel-ready project. That's the terminology that we use internally. The problem is it's a $5 million shovel-ready project.
That's a problem.
That has increased in the past 5 years from 3.5 million to 5 million in that time span.
Yeah, material costs have gone up the roof.
Material costs, and it fluctuates. We may see one type of material that has an increase of 40%, and then 6 months later that may decrease 25% only for another material to take its place. But generally speaking, inflation has greatly impacted that project. And I will also share with the advisory board that we are working with a lobbyist. This is the first time that we've engaged a lobbyist to help advance those interests in the general legislature in Raleigh through our North Carolina Congress.
Good, good.
We are also working with our federal government through Congressman Rouser's office to advance that initiative. And we do so at every turn, at every request, by highlighting the importance of lake management through lake clarity and lake quality. That is how that conversation starts. And then we build upon that. It's an expensive ask. There are very limited resources. I do want to put it into context the amount of resources through a grant program or a loan program. The state of North Carolina has 2 funding cycles. The last funding cycle that took place was in the spring of 2025. So they just released that data. $1.5 billion with a B dollars of request. 150-ish million dollars with an M funded. So that highlights the request across the state, just to put that part into perspective. So I think collectively at a town, we're doing a better job than we've ever done at trying to think outside the box, trying to advance our initiatives, having conversations with folks who have not talked to before, but we all understand it does take time. Are there any questions from the advisory board on any of those topics?
So when were phase 1 and phase 2 completed?
Phase 1 was completed right around sometime in 2021. I think I don't want to give you an exact date. I have to go back and look at the records, but we'll say mid 2021. Phase 2, I think, was completed beginning of 2023 was when that project was finalized. They were back to back. When phase 1 started, phase 1 ended, phase 2 started. And I'm glad you asked that question, Ms. Clark, because both of those projects were funded with loan dollars. There were no grant dollars given for those projects. That's $5 million of debt that the town of White Lake citizens paid for to try and do something, to try and help the problem in some way. It does exacerbate our problem on the flip side for phase 3 because there's no more money available out of the pockets of town of White Lake citizens. Now, maybe there could be some combination. Those are conversations we're having. Of course, we're looking for grant dollars, but maybe there's some combination of 50% grant, 50% loan dollars, 50% forgivable loan. We're exploring that as much as we can, but I do want to point out that was $5 million of loan. There were no grants associated with that project. So again, we are trying to do everything we can.
Sean, if you would, again, I keep going back to other comments and conversations from people over the years. And there was a discussion that we had the finest in the world, our sewer system, which was terracotta, and it was the greatest in the world. But it is deteriorated, and it's deteriorated everywhere. Do we have in phase 1, 2, or 3 any approaches that can ascertain whether or not we still have no sewage in an area, let's say, because of the leakage and going into the ground and nutrients going into the ground and leaching into the lake? An example, I heard an individual talking about, he was doing some work on his business and started to connect to what he thought was going to be new piping. And once he dug down, he realized that he had no sewage pipes, that had all deteriorated. And I just wonder, is there anything in phase 1, 2, 3 that can examine the sewage to a degree to find out if that still exists? For example, I had some plumbing going on, and I made sure that my metal pipes were all still in existence and working fine. And I told folks that if I found anything that had deteriorated, I at my cost would replace it. And I believe we have a lot of people that love the lake enough that if it were discovered that their sewage was not being handled the way it should be, that they would take those steps. Is there anything in any of those plans that can examine all the sewage structure around here and find out whether or not we have such leaks as that?
I think that's a great question. And I want to be clear that phase 1 and phase 2 are complete. So when we talk about future projects, we start with phase 3. Phase 1 and phase 2 both had elements of cameraing our system.
That's what
finding out what was actually in the ground and, quite frankly, what was not in the ground. You make a good point about terracotta. I mean, it was the best and the latest and the greatest at one point. I mean, take that a step farther. The solution to pollution was dilution at one point. We've come a long way in that realm, at least in terms collectively thinking on how to handle the problem statewide. I will say to you that there are a couple of issues taking place. Number one, there is some concern on laterals that connect from private property into our system. Those are not under the purview of the town. So if those have deteriorated, it certainly would be of everyone's benefit if a private property owner would take the initiative to reestablish or perhaps upgrade, enhance, address those laterals that connect to our town infrastructure system. Having said that, one of the ways we are thinking outside of the box, we actually just a couple of meetings ago, the Board of Commissioners approved an application to a wastewater asset and inventory assessment study. So our last project was completed roughly 2023. The asset and inventory assessment study will do two things. It will continue looking at what's in the ground, because this is not a one-time observation. It changes sometimes daily, but it does change over time. So we are aware of that. So that it will take a look at that, and in doing so, help us develop a capital improvement plan as well as an asset management plan. The capital improvement plan for the board to look at, the Board of Commissioners to look at during a yearly budget retreat, let's say. Of course, other times, that's a good time to look at. The asset management plan really to be the document that we utilize when we pursue grants, when we look at big capital expenditures for the town, when we look at various projects that are ongoing where we might can tie road work on one street into a portion of sewer infrastructure that we know is 50 years old, so we're not digging the same hole twice. So the asset management plan is critical. The other part of the AIA, the asset and inventory assessment study that we've applied for these grant dollars to fund, is to continue working on our GIS system. And that's important because that tells us what's in the ground, when it was put in the ground, what condition it's in the ground, and it allows us in real time to build records where our guys are responding. They can pull up what happened at the last time. We can attach work orders. So we have some history when we're going to a problem of what's going on, how we addressed it then. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, but the guys can see that in real time from their trucks and make educated decisions on how we move forward with whatever that situation may call for. So the answer to the question is yes.
Okay, so I understand that. Yeah, for the lateral, and again, there are a lot of citizens say, if I knew I had a problem, I would fix it. But I don't know I have a problem because everything is just going in the ground. Do we have, and what you were talking about, yes, there's scopes that can go with that. If we're not gonna go all around and do scope all the way down to everybody's house. Will your study include that if you've got 14 homes here and they are occupied for 4 months during a year, the average waste coming from that house and water usage would be X. And if it doesn't show that that's coming out, that might be a place where it is leaching into the soil. Would those studies address approaches like that that could give some kind of information out that maybe homeowner, not saying that you got a problem, but we're just looking at different areas, trying to do everything we can for the lake. And is there some way that maybe a test can be property owner or whatever, or can you be a part of a discussion? Anything along those lines?
Sure. So we do monitor our meters and we do have conversations in real time, month to month, sometimes sooner than that, of potential problems as we see them. The other thing I'd point out is typically when there's a problem of that magnitude, there is a sinkhole. That's a dead giveaway. And that's an immediate attention type of issue for our staff. In fact, we had one not long ago at a section of the lake, and we were able to go in and replace that entire portion of the service line coming off of our main line, because we identified that there was a problem there through the sinkhole that allowed us to work on. From the lateral standpoint of the private property, when we see things, we certainly address them. Not to say we catch everything. We do. We read roughly 1,500 meters a month manually right now, which is behind the times. In fact, we're working very hard to come up with a solution to present to the Board of Commissioners on how we can get into continuous read meters across the lake. We have about 3,000 meters, for that in the context of 50%. We read manually, but it does afford us the opportunity to put eyes and boots on the ground and be able to catch situations like you're describing, maybe much sooner than we would have. So there are pros and cons, and certainly we're trying to make lemonade out of lemons from that regard. But the answer to your question again is yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. So did we decide we didn't want to generate a list of questions tonight for DEQ?
I think that would be the next thing to discuss. Looking at our time, do we want to come up with a list to present to them, or do we want to work on it on our next meeting?
Well, I think we need to work on it for our next meeting.
Okay.
That's my opinion, but list of questions for the next meeting for DEQ.
DEQ. In other words, we can each individually work on some and then come together collectively and come up with a list to present. Everybody good with that?
I'm good with that.
If you want to send your questions to me and I can compile them and then share everybody's questions, or something you asked may spark questions.
Mm-hmm. That sounds real good.
Okay.
Okay, that being said. So item number 6 is brainstorming speakers that we would like to reach out to.
Well, I suggest, based on how successful it was at the White Lake Friends meeting, that we have Jim Perry and David Richardson from Lumber River come and speak to us. We had a good, very casual but informative meeting with Jim Perry at the White Lake Friends General Meeting. And I think it cleared up a lot of questions and things for people who were at that meeting. And Jim is retired, but David Richardson has filled his position there, I believe. And I think it would be a really good idea for our group to get to know those guys better. They are extremely helpful and knowledgeable, and developing a relationship with them would be beneficial for us.
Okay.
Would you like to invite Craig Usher to, he was the other guy that met with us when David Richardson.
He was really good. Yes.
David's background is law, but Craig's is science.
And you said his name was what?
Craig Usher.
Greg. And then, of course, the new superintendent, whenever that person is named, be nice to get to know them too, especially once we get our answers from
Right.
Singletary. Yep. Singletary Lake. Any more discussion on that? Any other speakers that, I mean, you know, off the top of your head, that obviously we're not going to do all these in one night, but we'll have to reach out to them, see when what their schedules are like.
Mark Raymond's name is on this list. He's the regional office Fayetteville.
And I've talked with him several times, and frankly, I'd hope this week to go by and meet him, and I will do that in the near future. He indicated that he had before that, yes, he would come talk to a group that really had responsibility. And I had indicated to him that that would be this group.
Okay.
And so with putting that together, I believe he would come.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to do is assure him that it's not a waste of time. This is a group that's actually trying to get something done.
Great. Yeah. Okay, good. Steve, go ahead.
DG, the first round of questions that we had for the superintendent at Singletary, he took another position, correct?
Yes, Lane is working in the district. And now he's still at Singletary until his replacement is named. And he's hoping that'll be December, what he told me.
Right.
So, but what he was going to do was he was going to generate or pass on those questions to other people in the state that could help him better answer. And then was going to compile those answers to get back to us.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering how that was gonna affect since he was in another position, but hopefully that'll turn out okay.
Yeah, he's going to use the resources, but like he told us, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but he told us that several of the positions were changing. In other words, there were new people in the district that would be qualified to answer our questions, were new to their position. So I think that's some of the reason why it's taken a little time to get those answers back to us.
This week, when I was at promised, Singletary had promised bags for the lake cleanup. And I called Friday morning to say I was on my way to get them, and she didn't answer. She wasn't there.
Oh, boy.
So I called John Flake and asked Jennifer if she had bags, and she said, honey, I'd give them to you if I had them, but we don't have them, and everything's on freeze. Hiring, supplies, everything.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm not sure how quickly Lane's position will be filled.
I've been told they had two people that were at the top of the list, but like you said, if things are frozen, when are they going to actually interview them and you know, discuss and approve? So it sounds like we need to be generating our questions to DEQ and not just wait on those answers.
Correct. You're right.
Yeah. All right, so that's a pretty good list of speakers, right? That we can reach out to kind of coordinate with ours, with their schedules to see when. Now, so my question would be, so item number 7 is talking about our next 2 meetings because of the holidays. So we have the option of changing our day that we would meet, or waiting until the first of the year, January, to have our next meeting.
So what would the meeting date be for November?
Well, that would be us.
Thanksgiving.
That's what it is now.
Yeah,
I will not be here.
is anybody available in November?
Depends on the day, sure.
Yeah.
What
It
are
depends.
the available dates that we could consider?
I hate to be vague, but I get a calendar the end of each week for the next week.
Correct.
And I don't know. Matter of fact, I don't make any appointments without going back through my office, which looks kind of funny because I'm there for an eye appointment or whatever. I say, can you talk with Marcia for a minute? And it's funny because I hear they'll say, what about the 17th? Okay, we can't do it then. What about the 21st? Oh, then what about the morning of the 28th? And that's a conversation that I hear. I found out that anytime I make something that I assume I'm clear, and all of a sudden I'm in Raleigh or Wilmington someplace.
Yeah, the 13th, I'll be at, in Hyde County. I won't even be in the county.
Well, it doesn't have to be on the 3rd. It does, and I was gonna say, November 18th and November 20th are both days that our other meetings are taking place, where Commissioner Benny and friend would.
Okay, so the room will be filled then on the 18th and 20th.
What do we want out? The 18th is good.
Yeah, the 18th, it'd have to be Monday the 17th.
Well, it's a long time between meetings if we don't have something in November. I think December, we could do without, because that's a pretty heavy schedule for most people, holiday wise.
So are we looking at the 17th? Is that what we're saying? That Monday?
And that's Monday if that,
Billy, does that work for you?
17th, I will say, you,
Of course, like she just stated, November and December are kind of busy, and my kid's birthday is November 16th, so we're talking a day after that.
Be tough for you. I get it.
Then you got December, which, like she said, is usually typically busy for almost everybody. But it'd be nice to try to have something in November, but it just fills up so quick.
Well, I'm by no means saying that you can't do it without me, but I'm gone from the 7th through I come home the 15th.
Yeah, I
So-
understand. I could try to get there, but it may be another Zoom for me in November.
Okay.
So do you want to? You want to go with the 13th, and we'll just make Ray run the meeting, and if you're available, you can zoom in.
Repeat.
Depending on my service, yes. I'm fine with that.
Repeat that, Terry. I'm sorry.
Go for the Thursday, the 13th.
that's not. Why the fire department is hosting fire association meeting that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry.
This place will be crawling. Yeah,
The wrong calendar.
yeah,
Right now.
yeah.
Well, on the 11th, the place will be empty, so we can come up. They're closed.
That will be all.
I hate to say this, but it looks like we would have to wait till January.
I mean, that's what it's looking like
Yeah.
with the holidays, yes.
So, but we have plenty to do. We've got, that report to pour through. And, the questions to come up with for DEQ, so. Do we pick is the date already selected for January?
Yeah, it is. The meetings take place on the fourth Thursday of every month.
Right.
That's what the bylaws say. And what I was gonna say earlier, if the board wants to meet on a different month, this meeting must be adjourned to a date certain, which would be that different day.
Mhm.
So if you don't want to meet again until January, that's fine. The meeting of that time will take place on the fourth Thursday and the schedule will resume.
Right.
So meanwhile, that being said, so that's what we're all in agreement with? Our next meeting will be January?
Rest details.
Yeah, yeah. Billy, you good with that?
That's probably the easiest road to take, I would think.
Okay, so I would say that pending, so the board will be meeting November, right?
Board of Commissioners.
Board of Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
So if they approve Mr. Paul, he can come by here and pick up like the DEQ stuff and some of these things. So he can come up with, generate questions and things to be along with us.
Absolutely, and I
Okay.
encourage you to add them to the email conversation.
Okay,
There's no problem taking part in conversation outside of the meeting, just remember you can't take action.
right.
And the other thing I would say, for the November meeting and the December meeting, town staff will post cancellation notes,
Okay,
just so the public can move.
okay, thank you. So Paul, that'll get you familiar with what we're looking at and dealing with. The town website. Yes, our meetings, all the boards, not just us, but all the boards.
If you need to know,
Okay, other business? I wanted to ask Mr. Allen, so this is some findings and research that you've presented us with?
Well, what this is last time we were together, there was a question about water level, and I said it's statutory. So I just looked a little bit into some information I had, and so I just brought up some things and just to just to let you know why I put this together. The first thing was my letter of 2016. My whole point was that I've been working on this for a long time and trying to come up with different approaches. I will say, if you look at the last page on that only 2 entities responded. One was DOT, who said if they put any kind of pipe in the way, then let them know that if we can show that it has some adverse effect, they would actually move it. I had a response from Billy Richardson. Let me know how I can help you. And again, it just kind of breaks your heart right now because Tony Rand and Billy Richardson said, y'all talking about sewage, we got sewage money coming out of Wahoo. We got plenty of sewage money. We can do anything you want to with sewage money. That's what I was told back then. The next thing I had was the statutes. There are only 2 statutes that I can find, and these were reported to me, that the 66 feet presented this to the town council on a number of occasions. And there's a question about that, but I think if you have common sense, it doesn't say White Lake shall be 66 feet, but if it tells you can't dig a ditch any lower than 66 feet, then that means that you cannot impact the water level. So I suggest everybody else, let's put it that way, has said the water level of White Lake is 66 feet. Then there was the other one that talked about the town can dig to do any kind of work they need to do. I just threw in a couple of statutory provisions after that. That's the next thing, what the mean high water mark is, number 3 on that first page. Or number 2 at the highest point on the shore. And the only other thing I put in there was because on the next page, no person shall in any way damage or alter ditches. In other words, looking at the water level. Now, do we have to have that consideration when we're talking about at the last meeting, maybe building something in the lake that would go up to and capture the water, even though if we don't have the spillway? Can we do something that does affect inlet and outlet? But of course, we'd only be able to do it with state permission. Another one I threw in there is about obstructing anything. So anyway, just something to kind of look at.
Okay.
The next thing I had, just again, there's been scientific journals forever. And just thought it was very interesting that if you look in the next one, that again, this is David Fry. This is from 1949. This lake has been studied, Jim Perry said, more than anybody else, any other lake. But we had the clarity of White Lake at over 11 feet, and tells a little bit about the science of it. I just thought, Mary Kay, you'd like some of the science stuff. And the next thing actually was, again, with the thing about flow, and another scientific studies that have been done over the years, and kind of interesting because there was a grist mill at White Lake, and they did evidently cut into the shore a little bit up at the campground and had the grist mill run. And it's kind of amazing, again, trying to figure out what White Lake was like and what affected it. It filled back up all the time, and there was enough water coming in to show that there was a real flow coming into the lake. And because it filled up frequently, and you wouldn't have it just every now and then if you couldn't make money on that. So when they were operating the grist mill, that's how they did it. Let's see. Next thing is something that's just frankly been a kind of a concern. John Blanchard was with DEQ, and I could talk to him and he would just say, "Hey, have you ever seen so and so and so and so?" And I'd say no. So he'd go make a copy for me. So this is the next thing with the recommendations made back in 2021. And again, we talk about the city, and the only reason I'm doing all this is if I understand what we're going to do, is we're going to try our best to come up with plans and such that's going to help the lake. And I thought maybe give a little insight on some of the different paths that have prevented that. And this is one of them, because the state came back and said, here, basically 6 things that you can do, or 5, I always counted 1. And here's some grants that you can do. Here's all this. Hey, y'all go ahead and do this, and we will help you. And we're sitting here in this state, and we don't have that. And it gets back to experts again, Mary Kay. They said, get an expert from the North American Lakes Management Society. At the time I looked at this back in 21, there were none in South Carolina, and there were only 2 in North Carolina, and they were never approached. And that's just a concern. Next thing, there's investigation. Again, another study, this back in 2017. And this I got together when, again, the assertion when the consultant was hired was that there were no springs, and that people left these meetings and never came back because they were just so frustrated. And these were presented to the board, trying to get the board to understand that there is scientific evidence that there were springs. And that's why on page 13 there, you got the report from Brian Boyce that there was enough water flow head pressure great enough to move the water away. And again, it does say that there is some higher pH, but that's not anywhere around the springs, and the springs were the source of the low pH. Also, on page 12, it referenced Kimberly Jones again. I got it with her. She gave me pictures of them down there on the springs.
Or, yeah.
Next thing I had was, again, trying to get some understanding of, we do have some position with the state, I would suggest. There was a study of all the Singletary lakes, and next thing indicated, and again, I didn't take the time, or I don't have it organized to my fingertips. White Lake is a Class B lake. And if you read what that is, under 1, that's for primary recreation. That is the best usage. If you look at every other lake around here, that's the next page, which is Class C, which is fishing. White Lake, aquatic life propagation, maintenance, best use, suitable for aquatic life propagation and maintenance, biological integrity. Again, if we're talking to the state, say state, you've already said that we're a recreation lake, so help us keep this is a recreation lake rather than turn it into a fishing lake. Fishing lake is great, and it's great for the algae that we have in there to be a fishing lake, but we're not a fishing lake. And not only we say we're not a fishing lake, the state officially said, you're not a fishing lake, White Lake, you're a recreation lake. And last thing I put in there was, again, that there are people that have been reaching out for a whole lot. And this is a letter or email back to Terry from Breck over at the Blueberry Land, which is a point of interest as to having an aquifer and how it may have been breached and how to explore that. And that's, I suggest, something that people, as they look at how do we remedy White Lake, since you show in every single study ever made of White Lake that there were springs, and the reason White Lake was clear is because there were springs. And after 2 years, Diane has admitted that there were springs here. And I just suggest, as we look at what do we need to do with, as the DEQ put in their points, let's do some groundwater studies, let's look at the sewage, and then let's look at how do we get springs going again. I throw all that out just to, if we're the group that's going to try to start getting things going, this is just a taste of the background. I mean, I've got expandable folders. I didn't go through and get all that out. That's why I'm really asking, what do we do with this report? Because do I go back and find an actual study that says no or whatever? I don't know. So anyway, that's the only reason I did that.
So after going over that, maybe we'll have a better understanding of what you have, for us to look at, to compare it with our understanding of her piece. Okay. Well, thank you for this information.
Your assignment is read Diane's article and read these things that Alan gave you, because it will give you great insight.
Yes.
And you'll meet them January.
And come up with our DEQ questions.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
I believe we're all in favor.
Aye.